Hello. Thank you so much for joining me. Today's session is going to be just, a fun flow. You can modify for whatever energy level you're at. I'll try to call that out as we move through the practice. You don't need a yoga mat, but of course you need as much room as a yoga mat. Make sure you've got room to reach off. So you're not right up against a wall or a heavy piece of furniture. I'm sitting on a blanket. I'll use it for my knees. And then I also have blocks to help keep me supported. So make sure you gather all the things you need. And then find yourself coming into that comfortable position. It doesn't matter what that comfortable position looks like. Just find that position. Remember, it's not about sitting here until your toes and feet get tingly or your legs start to feel a little uncomfortable. The wider your base, so the more you have your legs spread out, right? You're not cutting off hardly any circulation that way. And so if you do have that tingly feeling in your toes or feet, let your legs be out in front of you for that wider base. And let your awareness start to come to your breath. You're bringing that breath into your body on the inhale, sending it back out on the exhale. That full exchange of breath, your lungs pumping and moving as they do. That sends that oxygen into that blood and it starts to circulate through your body. And that oxygenated blood is nourishing. And so just sitting and breathing does so much for you. It helps to oxygenate that blood more in order to help it flow into areas and make them feel better and send healing powers. That's the intelligence of your human form. It's not necessarily ruled by you thinking. It's not ruled by you thinking really at all. It exists separately. It is part of you. And so staying with that breath, that's all you need to do to honor it. Spending that time breathing with awareness and intention, filling up the lungs on the inhale and releasing fully on the exhale. And stay with that awareness of your body and your breath. And as you fill up the lower third of your lungs, press your navel out into the space in front of you. As the middle part of your lungs fills up, feel your ribs move up and apart. And then that breath goes into the upper third. Feel your heart move up in your chest. And then exhale, heart and chest relax, ribs move down and together, and then you pull that navel back and up into your body. And then the inhale happens again, and you fill up navel, ribs, chest, and release, chest, ribs, navel. And to help to keep you upright and that breath to be full and deep, gently tuck your tail. So that's a gentle squeeze of the glutes, pulling down with the back body, lifting with the front body, pressing the knees away, flexing the feet. So you've got that engagement of that lower body, and then lift of the upper body, that upper girdle. The heart lifts, but the blades gently pull down and tuck in. You're not squeezing them together to form that crease, but they are active and gently tucking in to your body. Breathing full and deep. There's a nice gentle pressure on the tops of your shoulders. If you keep pressing the crown of your head up to the sky, you get length at your neck. Breathing full and deep. So you're always lifting the front body and pressing down with the back body and staying with that awareness. Find that space that you root in at, right where you're at, grounding into your place in the mat. And then from that place of connection, lift and rise yourself. So you're rooting down and rising both at the same time, all the time. And finding that connection and that awareness definitely benefits. It adds so much to your life. So take time to practice the connection. Staying with that awareness of pressing down, rooting down, and also lifting up, rising up. Your hands can come to your heart. That is my intention, to keep bringing your awareness to that sensation of both at the same time. If you'd like to add your own personal intention for the practice, take a moment to do so. And then together we're going to inhale. Sweep. Keep that girdle engaged, especially that upper girdle. Keeping those shoulders out of your ears as you bring those hands down back in front of your heart. Couple more times. So sweeping up, gathering up all the good energy, and then pulling it right back down into your heart center. Third time. And then bringing yourself into stillness. Take a moment to untangle those legs, especially if they've been really close to you, and especially if you feel any tingling, and take a moment to let the blood start to flow. Breathing full and deep, inhaling and exhaling. You can also turn your ankles. You're not being harsh with any part of your body. And then find yourself back in a comfortable seat. Remember, the more that your legs are extended out, the wider your base is, and it's just safer. I mean, maybe you won't be able to hinge as far forward, but that's okay, because you've created yourself a nice solid base, and staying with that awareness of always having that solid base and then lifting from that solid base. And so you're starting in that active position, pulling down the back body, lifting the front body. Same movement we just did. Bring the arms up. We're going to pause with hands at the heart. Keep those girdles engaged. Gently turn towards that right knee and dip down, and then lift and turn towards that left knee and dip down. So this is not a bend at the belly. This is a lift and a lengthen, a lift, a lengthen, and a hinge. Breathing full and deep, keeping that heart lifted. So pay attention as you turn. Are you coming down? You don't need to do that. It's about staying lifted and trying to move those arms past. Inhale and exhale. And then come through center. Keep those arms in front of you. Lift them up. Keep those shoulders engaged as you bring them up. Now, if it's too much to bring them right behind your head, or if your ponytail is in the way, right up on top of your head also works. So whatever works, try not to strain your neck. It's not about straining your neck, so don't let your neck, if you are coming back behind your head, don't let your head fall back. Try to keep it upright. Keep those shoulders engaged. Maybe at some point you do start to squeeze, but that's that sensation, and you're in charge of whether it's coming to the top or behind. A couple more. I love this stretch. Inhaling and exhaling. And then let the engagement go. Notice how you feel. So once you let that engagement go, your body goes back into that place of, it goes into that place of relaxation. So it goes into that place of how you normally are. And it leaves just this wonderful residual as that happens, and I can feel it settling into my muscle memory, and it's going deep into my muscle memory in order to help me through the rest of my life. And that is just so amazing. And I hope you feel that too. So let yourself come around onto those hands and knees. Take your time to make the cushion with your blanket, especially if your knees are really bothering you or they really talk to you and you really hate being on your knees. The knee work is so good. Kneeling work is so good. So if you can alleviate any stress on your knees by putting a blanket down, then please take the time to do that. Or it can be a towel, doesn't have to be a blanket. And now I'm going to reach towards blocks. That's going to be a big stretch. If you are not ready for that big of a stretch, because you're keeping all those girdles engaged, and it is a lot underneath your underarms and along your back body. You're always keeping your neck pulled. If you are using the blocks, you're being careful. If you're not using the blocks, you're still being careful. Reaching forward, you're still trying to engage, pressing your whole self back, reaching your whole self forward. I know this is a resting posture, but you still need to be holding yourself in your trunk, in your torso. It helps to keep you in that place. You just feel better. And the difference between not paying attention and paying attention and how I feel, oh my gosh, it's so much. So you spending as much time as you can practicing that awareness helps you build that superpower. All right, up into that table. You're building that table with a solid foundation. Hands right underneath your shoulders. Spread those fingers wide. Gentle grip with those fingers. Bring those knees so they're right underneath those hips. Don't hyperextend those elbows, and then pull those blades together a couple times and then pull them apart. Pull them together, pull them apart, pull them together, pull them apart, and then leaving them pulled apart with that shoulder girdle engaged. So you're still lifting the heart, pulling those blades down. Move through that tiny pelvic tilt. So this is you moving your pelvis in that tiny pelvic tilt in order to find that place of support. And it is with the tail pulled down and the navel pulled up, and then your cat and cow is right in the middle. Inhaling and exhaling. Stay with the breath. Stay with how it feels in your body. And then pause in your neutral position and then press back into your child. So you take the stress definitely off your arms. Even if you're holding yourself in your trunk, you might feel it in your wrists, in your hands. You're always being gentle as you move things around in order to feel comfortable. Inhaling and exhaling. Never minding the cracks. Cracks mean you're moving. I know everyone thinks that cracking is bad or you're getting old. Well, I say thank goodness you're cracking, right? Like every time you crack, you should be like, thank you, I'm still moving. All right, back into that stable table. Remember, you are trying to keep that weight in your trunk, and it helps to keep the weight off the palms. So lifting your wrists and engaging those top parts of your hands and then bringing them back down helps with that support. Send that left leg back into that nice spinal balance. Keep that left glute, left hip flexor engaged. Only reach those opposite arms if it feels good. Keep your shoulders, keep your chest square to the mat. Try not to dip down into that left side. Keep pulling those back bodies and lower bodies down. Keep lifting those upper bodies and those front bodies up. It's all about that awareness. Inhale, exhale, knee and nose. So come up into that cat, spread out, cat, spread out. And if you don't like this, you can just do the leg or you can just do the arm. And then bring that right leg down. Let your engagement go for the most part. Definitely in your arms, keeping yourself awareness of that place right behind your navel, in front of your tail. That is your very root, your very beginning. We start at the navel. Everyone starts. So if you're looking around for your roots. You can find them from within. And then lift. Stable table, same thing, other side. First we did that spinal balance. We're pressing back with the right leg now. Keep those hips, so pay attention. Is that right hip coming up? Is that right glute disconnected from the left? And if it is, you just pull it into that place of support. Keep pulling that tail down. And if you lose your balance, just be careful with your joints. Keep pulling that navel up and then reach that opposite limb. Keep those joints, those sockets engaged. So it's like you do this little engagement from within with those sockets in order to keep them in a place of support. And then you are moving through that hinge and that pinch up into that cat. Don't count, so it doesn't matter how many you go. Eventually it'll be even if you do enough yoga. And then reach, never hurting yourself if you come down, always being careful. Rest in that child, completely reset. Inhale and exhale. Stay with your breath. Make sure you're taking care of yourself. You've got something to drink if you need it. Taking time to stay hydrated. Oh, that tastes good. Inhaling and exhaling. And then staying with that awareness of holding yourself in your trunk. Stay with that and come up into your downward dog. So all your girdles are engaged. You're keeping those sockets, upper and lower, shoulder and hip, engaged. And then you lift. Keep those knees bent to protect them. Don't hyperextend the elbows to protect them. Find the balls of your feet and the balls of your hands. And that is pretty much where you are holding yourself. It should feel even between the front and the back body. Breathing full and deep. Inhale and exhale, or that top and the lower. This is a hinge. Your toes are never doing hardly any work. They should be spread kind of far away from the feet as can be. So so these are subtle movements. You can't really get them very far. And if you can't even lift up your toes, then maybe walk your dog in a little bit so you're not so wide. All right, take your time. Either drop to hands and knees and step up, or lift that lower girdle up a little bit higher and walk yourself up, bringing those legs underneath you into that forward fold, and you are playing around with that forward fold. Keep those knees bent. Play around with back on your heels, up on your balls and toes. So you almost feel like you're going to somersault forward, and then you almost feel like you're going to fall back. And then somewhere in between there, between your balls and your heels, is that solid base. And then let yourself swing or sway as much or as little as feels good. I love to put my hands in my elbows. I like to really swing and sway from that hinge so I get that nice stretch down my side body. Always pulling that tail down to keep that low back nice and supported and lengthened. After you feel complete in your movement back into that forward fold, both feet underneath your hips, finding that weight between the balls and the heels. Keep those toes lifted, coming from that forward fold, inhaling halfway into that flat back. Keep those knees bent in order to help protect those hamstrings. Exhale, come forward into that forward fold. Inhale and exhale. Inhale halfway, flat back, really feel yourself engage. Press back, exhale into that forward fold. The next time we come up, you either come up all the way in the reverse swan dive or come up in steps, halfway up, flat back, hands above the knees. Press yourself up to that awkward chair and then press yourself up into standing. And then when you get to standing, no matter how you got there, if you want to bring your arms up over your head, so if you did do that reverse swan dive, they've already been there, you are keeping those girdles engaged and then rounding over that imaginary beach ball you often hear, but don't forget to keep the girdles engaged. You don't just round over and let the beach ball do the work. You let your body do the work. Hands to your heart, belly, one of each, out to the sides. And you are breathing full and deep, navel, ribs, chest. Exhaling fully, chest, ribs, navel. Coming into mountain, so finding yourself on those 2 feet, balls and heels are what you are plugging into your mat. You're finding that awareness of the right side and the left side of your foot, both feet. Also the pinky side of both feet and the big toe side of both feet. And it should feel even on all of that. There's like a rim of your foot, just like there's a rim of your palm. Lift those digits on your feet, spread them as wide as feels comfortable, and then bring them forward for a very gentle grip on the mat. They really don't do a lot of work. Pull those kneecaps up into those thighs to protect those knees and keep you from hyperextending, and then plug those legs right into that lower girdle that you pull down into place, and then feel the sockets engage, and you are a solid base. Navel, dimples down. You are solid. That is what is supporting you, and you're holding yourself. You're not just squeezing the muscle. You are engaging the framework and engaging the muscle in order, and this is a drop of the back body and a lift of the front body, and then navel, dimples up. You're light. You keep lifting. You're light as a feather. It's just like floating right on top of your body. Lift that heart. Drop those shoulder blades, tucking them in. It's still heavy on the back body and then light on the front body. That sensation of pressing the crown and the tail in 2 separate directions still happening. And then don't forget your feet and not hyperextending those knees. So from that mountain, we start to move, inhaling, lifting into as much of that back bend as feels good, and then exhaling, coming forward into your forward fold. Make sure that you are finding those hinges and not the bend of your belly. Inhale halfway into that flat back, still a hinge. Inhale halfway down, still a hinge, coming into that plank, that knee down plank or table. Keep those shoulders out of your ears. Keep pulling that front body up. Keep pulling that front body back and release down to the floor. Make sure that that lower body is really heavy as you pull away that upper body, coming into a few baby cobras. So your lower body, your legs are heavy. They're not lifting up off the floor. You're feeling the tops of your knees on the floor. Maybe bring those legs in a little bit closer, especially if you want to press up into that higher cobra. Inhaling and exhaling. Remember, you're not squeezing just the glutes. You are activating the framework. And then decide, do you want to lengthen down or can you keep yourself nice and long here? And then pull back into that downward dog, breathing full and deep. Keep lifting yourself up with that lower trunk, that lower girdle. Inhaling and exhaling. You're bringing your upper girdle lower than your lower girdle. Decide how you want to make your way to the front of your space, whether you walk or drop down to hands and knees. Use whatever feels good to you to move. Find that forward fold, halfway, flat back, back down for the floor, all the way up then, up above your head. Take your time. If you feel dizzy, you don't have to reach like that. You can come up in stages. Hinge. Find that weight in that back body, halfway up, halfway down, back to the plank, knee down plank, or the table. Stay with that awareness and that engagement and then that heavy lower body as that upper body is light and lifts. And then staying with that awareness of you equally between your arms and your legs, Make sure your dogs are not too wide. And then make your way to the front of your space, finding that forward fold, always finding that solid place underneath your feet, halfway, flat back, halfway down, and then all the way up. Keep those sockets engaged as you move, breathing full and deep. And then, we're going to hinge again. Navel dimples down, solid base, navel dimples up, long length. Bring yourself up halfway, come back to that forward fold, and step back, plank, knee down plank, or table to release, to lift into your cobra, and then back into your downward dog. Remember, if you cannot feel yourself on your balls with your heels really heavy, then walk your dog in a little bit and hang out with not hyperextended knees. Inhaling and exhaling, and then after a couple breaths, bring yourself down and rest in that child. Completely resetting. Stay with your breath. Make sure you're drinking water if you need it. Inhale and exhale. And then table or downward dog, doesn't matter how you bring that right foot up between your hands. And if it doesn't feel good to lift into that three-legged dog and then pull yourself forward into that plank, pulling that right leg underneath, then do it from your knees. So start in that crescent lunge. Your right foot is right underneath your face. Your left heel is pressing back, and you're trying to keep those hips nice and square. You can, if it already feels good to your body, smear that back foot down. It doesn't have to be down. This takes a lot of ankle flexibility that you can work up to. Your feet are on railroad tracks, and then lift into your crescent or your warrior one. Doesn't matter which one. Both of them, you're heavy, always heavy in your low body. That's where you're holding yourself. Make sure that the ball of your foot is doing the work, not your toes. That's both. And then if you've got that back foot smeared, you're keeping those knees nice and protected. Inhale and exhale. Stay with your breath. Arms can be reaching up at your heart, at your sides. We're going to open up to that warrior two. So if you already got that foot smeared down, you just need to open up those hips. If you've got it up, you bring that foot down, and now your hips are open to the long side. You're in that warrior two. You're still heavy with that lower body, pulling that tail down, lifting that front body. Your sockets are engaged, and that right knee is right over that ankle. Back left kneecap is pulled up. Actually, keep trying to pull both those kneecaps up. And then you are stretching from your center. You don't need to reach forward. You just need to lift up from your center. And then keeping those shoulders engaged, let those arms be active. Breathing full and deep. Inhale and exhale. Your gaze is wherever feels good. Let that right elbow or that right arm come down. It doesn't matter. Stay lifted. There's a slight pinch on your right side. It's a lot of sensation, and then you are lifting that whole left side. You're not just lifting your left shoulder. You are still lifting that left hip. The left glute and that right glute are doing two separate things, but they're both really important. Don't lose the lunge. Inhale and exhale, breathing full and deep. And then up to that warrior two. Flip that right palm. Beautiful. Lift yourself with that trunk as you straighten that right leg. This is still a hinge. I want you to hinge over that right leg. It's not really about reaching forward. It's about finding that hinge, finding that length. Keep lifting that whole side, that whole left side. Inhaling and exhaling. It's like you've got an imaginary wall behind you, and you can put both shoulder blades and both glutes. So feel where that left glute is. Is it far forward? Keep trying to bring it back to be even. It took me a while to find that. All right, this is where you stay long with that upper body. Keep lifting that navel and that heart up. You're going to rotate over that right foot. Drop that knee at any time. We're coming back into plank, knee down plank, and then we're going to the right side, whether you do this knee down or not, into a side plank. So that right arm is pressing down, left arm lifting up. Keep trying to rotate that whole right side under. Keep trying to lift and pull that whole left side back. Inhale and exhale. You're still heavy with that back body, and then light with that front body. And then back into the plank, knee down plank. If you want to go through a flow, please do. I think it's fun. Inhale and exhale. Stay with your breath. You can also rest right in child. I'm turning around so I can stay facing you. You're bringing that left leg forward. Doesn't matter how it happens, whether you're in that downward dog and you want to then make sure you don't kick anything. Pull that left leg right up between your feet, or you're doing it through the table position. You are keeping awareness on that trunk. You're holding yourself. You're lifting yourself, right? Right here. This is where you're holding yourself. Keep lifting that front body. Keep trying to square those hips. So this is a study in 2 different ways in order to square to the short edge, and then we move to the long edge. After a couple breaths here, you're only bringing those arms up over your head if it's something that feels good to you. And then, I don't think we did anything else fun there. We just hung in that for a minute. And then we opened into that warrior 2. And then we hung out in this warrior 2 for a little bit. Keep dropping that back body. Keep lifting that front body. Make sure the balls of your right and your left foot, you should feel even between both of them. Your legs should feel, because it's happening here in your trunk. You're trying to pull that navel into that place. It's like your center of gravity is like all through here, and you're trying, it's not just one point, right? And that navel and that heart, you're lifting that heart and bringing it on top of that navel. We then, and stay with that awareness of your navel on top of your heart as you hinge to the left, only bringing your arm to where it feels good. Don't lose the lunge. Inhale and exhale. Now you've got this pinch on your left side, your left glute, as you pull that left glute down and around, and then you try to open and reach over that thigh. All right, back into that warrior 2. Then we flipped, and then we lifted with our trunks, we don't just straighten the leg. And then we reach those arms wide, but we hinge over that left leg. Make sure you've got that ball engaged, breathing full and deep. You can really feel the line from your heel or from that foot up that leg, especially in this, for my side, in triangle. Inhaling and exhaling. You should still feel even between your right and your left leg. Try to bring your awareness there. So you always feel steady into your runner's lunge, to step back, to move onto that side plank. I do this kind of funky thing where I bring this leg in front, because you can eventually, you can bring it on top. Whoa. Inhale and exhale. Stay with your breath. Moving through a flow, or just pulling up to a dog. Inhaling and exhaling, 2 to 3 breaths there, and then rest back down in that child. Make sure that you are taking time to rest. It is so important to reset the resting posture, and it's not like you just completely, you just don't completely fall into the resting posture. You're still holding yourself in your trunk. So you're always protecting your knees and your elbows, those delicate parts of yourself. Inhaling and exhaling. And then back into your downward dog or your table. That right leg is going to come up between your hands. Doesn't matter how you get there. You're in that runner's lunge. Breathing full and deep. Make sure that you feel supported. That right foot, that right leg is hinged, and your belly is right on the inside of that right thigh. And stay with that awareness as you lift your upper body and then come to balance. And I brought it to a block, but I'm not putting any weight on that block. I'm holding myself in my trunk. Breathing full and deep. If you don't have a block, you're keeping your foot flexed. You can also use a wall to hold on to. Inhale and exhale. Let yourself challenge yourself as you lengthen that left leg in front of you. Your knee is still as high as ever feels good. Keep awareness on how you hold your body as you let that left leg come down underneath you. Try not to bring it down. And then make sure you're not going to, don't worry, I'm not going to hit my head. You're going to come forward. You make sure you don't hit your head into that warrior three. So press back through that left heel. Try to keep that trunk square to that mat. And then to play around with lifting up off and rotating that socket. Right hand comes down to the floor or block. Ooh. And you are rotating up on that right socket, opening up into, ooh, do you hear that crack? Love it. Finding that balancing half moon, because why not? Inhale and exhale. I just told you it was going to be a fun flow. Bring those blocks or those hands on either side of that right foot. Keep lifting that lower trunk higher. Keep trying to bring that upper trunk lower. And you are in your standing split. Inhale and exhale, and then being careful with your body. You are gently coming down into the runner's lunge, and then a step back to move through a flow or not, because you don't have to if you don't want to. If you're like, oh, that took it all out of me, then that's totally fine. Inhale and exhale. Stay with your breath. Let's scoot back a little bit. Left leg is coming up. Coming up underneath your hands, or underneath your face. Your hands are on either side, whether they be on the floor or blocks. So I'm going to bring my right foot to this block right here. Using, I happen to have that table there. Coming onto that left leg is now underneath. You're still holding yourself in your trunk, lifting that lower body, lifting that front body, dropping that lower body. Stay with that sensation as you play around with your balance. Remember, those left toes are not doing hardly any work. They're not doing any work at all. And then you are coming into your warrior three, playing around, or airplane, using those blocks, using a wall, but trying to keep your trunk nice and square to the floor. And then you play around with that balancing half moon, which my back's gonna be to you for a bit. But now I am squaring to the long edge, bringing that right leg up as high as my right hip. Breathing full and deep. I'm still holding myself in my trunk, still trying to, if I could bring the back of my body against a wall. And this is a wall is a great place to practice this. To see that you've got that right glute up and back. And then play around with the standing split. Trying to bring that lower body, that lower trunk higher Trying to bring that upper trunk lower, not hyperextending that left knee, to then let those toes come down to once again move through the flow, or not. You can just pull up to a dog, hang out in a dog for 2 to 3 breaths, or you're coming right to the child, whatever makes the most sense for you. Inhaling and exhaling. Breathing full and deep. Stay with your breath. I didn't say it before, but it goes without saying in all of my dealings with anything, not just in yoga, you are being kind, compassionate, and loving with yourself. And once you are able to do that with yourself, it's easier to do that for people that you don't even know, right? And it's not about feeling sorry for them. It's about actually having compassion for the human condition that is going on all around us. And you being able to set aside your personal feelings and judgments around how someone's living their life, or if you would do that, or if you wouldn't do that, and it really doesn't matter, right? You still just need to have that love and human compassion for another human being. And that, my friends, is wonderful. Keep looking for that. Keep reaching for that. Come to your back. Find yourself on your back. Keep those blocks close. You might want to use them for your bridge if you really want to make, we're going to come into bridge, if you want to make your bridge really restorative. You're on your back. You're keeping your glutes heavy. You're starting with that windshield wiper, back and forth, trying to bring your upper body, your whole trunk, trying to just let it spread out on the mat. Keep awareness on how you're lifting that heart and how you're pulling those blades down. And they're not squeezing together, but they're engaged. And then bring those feet up only if you can keep those glutes heavy. That helps with that low back. Moving as much or as little as feels good. If it doesn't feel good to rock and circle, then keep those knees down and just windshield wiper. You're in charge of how wide or how close those feet are to get different sensations. Eventually you're going to be done with movement. Here's where if you wanted to bring a block underneath you into your bridge, have it close, hands down by your sides. Let's lower and lift a few times. First you're going to do that tail tuck. You're going to get that clock in that place of support. So the clock, the navel is 12, the pubic bone is 6, and your hip flexors are 9 and 3, and you are finding that place of support and then lifting, keeping that clock pulled up into that place of support as you lower and lift. So this is how you engage your inner body and your framework, and then you move on top of that, which is a superpower. Next time you lift up, if you want to bring that block to right where your tail would be, which is right above your crack, right? Keep trying to pull that clock up to get that nice length. Or you can press up into wheel or just roll your shoulders under. You're always being careful with how you feel. You're engaging the balls of those feet. Those knees are pulling together, but they're not touching. They're definitely not falling out. Inhale and exhale. Keep awareness in that lower trunk. It is what is holding you up. Take your time if you've got that block or your arms underneath you. Make sure that you bring them out from underneath you. You keep pulling that clock into place as you lower your body. And then when you get down, it's rock, circle, whatever feels good. Windshield wiper. And then let's come into pigeon on the back, feet back on the floor, right ankle on top of that left knee. Keep trying to bring that right glute to the floor. In fact, glue that glute into the floor. Keep it glued. If you can lift your leg and still keep that glute glued, then do that. If you want to reach through and you need to lift yourself up in order to do that, that's fine, but bring yourself back down. You can also use a strap. You're breathing full and and deep. Both feet flexed, both legs engaged, starting with your glutes. You're trying to press your crack into the mat. That you don't want to lift your butt up off the floor. Don't forget to keep trying to spread your shoulders out. Inhale and exhale. Let those arms come down. Let that left foot come down. Let that right foot come down. Move however feels good. And then back into a starting position. The left glute stays down. Right ankle. Oh wait. The left glute stays down. Left ankle on right knee. Inhale and exhale. Breathing full and deep. So try to get those hip flexors square to the sky as you try to get those dimples square to the mat. And then move, and you might not be able to move as much, and that is okay because it means you are engaged and supporting yourself, which is the most awesome thing you can do for yourself. Breath is full and deep. Inhaling and exhaling. And then you're going to release to once again bring those feet down. Rock, circle. Keep those knees bent. Let those arms reach out to the side. Walk your feet in so they're a little bit closer so your legs are a little bit closer. And then that right knee crosses over that left knee. And now don't lift that right glute. So that right glute might come up off the floor. So if you might not be able to cross as much, but if you keep trying to bring your glutes down, you're going to keep your body supported. All right. Rolling or jiggling onto your left hip. Now, in order to twist it, though, is completely, so now that right glute has come up, but your hips are stacked. That right shoulder blade still connected to the floor. Inhale and exhale, lift yourself up. Keep your legs together the way they are. Jiggle or move to that right hip. As you pull, that right leg pulls that left leg. Keep trying to pull that left glute down so then you get this nice stretch on the hip, on this IT band. Back up to center. Take your time. You're on that neutral back, both glutes, both dimples, both blades pressing into the mat. And now walk those legs in together and then let that left leg come on top of the right leg. Keep trying to bring your knees close to the back of your left knee and the top of your right knee into each other. And then let yourself move to the right. You keep your left side anchored. Remember to jiggle onto that hip, that right hip, so you keep those hips somewhat square. So the twist is more in the middle back. And then take time to come up to that neutral position. Keep bringing those knees together and then let the legs, the left leg is pulling the right leg. Inhaling and exhaling. Coming back up through center, taking your time, moving however feels good. Maybe you want to lay in a heart opener for a little bit to really let that oxygenated blood get deep into, so you move differently so your rib cage is open and exposed for with that oxygenated blood, and then it helps you, move your heart up a little bit more and your back body down. So if you've got 7, 8, 10 minutes to lay in relaxation or to sit in meditation, please take time to do that. Make sure that you take all of the time to let those residuals get deep into your muscle memory. And until next time, namaste. Take care.